Good afternoon, everybody. I want to invite folks to come up in the fronter tables here as we've now dispersed to the hill and the crowd's in different places. So thank you, Josh. Thank you for taking good instruction. I appreciate that. Thanks, Fred. And we're going to try. I think there's a few more that are going to come in, but we are going to start a little ahead of the agenda time so we can be done at 2:20, so we're not disrupted in what I'm sure is going to be a great conversation. Let's see. Mike, come on up front. Want to fill up front, if you would, please. Karen, you too. You don't like backbenchers, Karen. I know this. All right. Yeah, this is generative artificial intelligence. Come on up, Andy. Come on. Come on. Yeah, that's good enough, Karen. That's great. Okay. Kate, I see you behind that pillar. You come on up. Okay. Okay. So if folks would please come up on the stage. Come on up.
Thank you.
All right. I'll come around. And as our speakers settle, and I'm gonna let them introduce themselves, and of course their bios are also in the app. It's really a fantastic group of folks to talk about this next session. As we were putting together the sessions for this year's Impact, it became clear about. In fact, this is one of the late entries. The conversation around generative artificial intelligence obviously is, it's taken a lot of oxygen in the press. What we were really interested in is what does that mean? What does generative artificial intelligence mean through a cooperative lens, looking at our cooperative identity and also a lens of equity. And we've got the right three people here, and I'm sure you're going to agree with me once we get into this. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to call, just so you know, I'll let you know, I'm not sure if that's the exact right time. We'll stop probably at 2:15 or 2:17 or so. So thank you very much. Violetta, take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm Violetta Dafpaktiti. It's a long name, so I go by V. And I will confess that we're not actually experts on AI, but collectively, my fellow panelists and I have quite a lot of experience in working in the digital space. And of course, we are very passionate and work for the co-op movement. So that's why we're here. I am the CEO of Cooperation LLC, which is a business co-owned by NCBA CLUSA and the International Cooperative Alliance. And we manage the .coop domain name space for cooperatives worldwide to differentiate themselves on the internet. We also provide directory and mapping services for all cooperative enterprise around the world so that we can literally put cooperatives on the world map. And now I would like to introduce, well, actually, they will introduce themselves. Rob, would you like to go first?
Sure thing. So I'm Rob McClinton. I'm the CEO of Small World Communications. We're a digital presence provider, meaning we do domain names like .coop, website hosting, redesign, logo branding, things like that. We have been working within the cooperative space quite a bit over the last few years. We're partnering with working and programming through NCBA. We are a founding member with Zebras Unite, the Ajani Group, which is Black and Brown Consultancy, and of course, everything co-op. We're part of that team as well. So we are doing everything we can to help cooperatives win in the digital space, so that when folks come to your website and look to engage your products or services, your site represents the quality that they expect and that you deliver.
And I am Ronaldo Hardy. I'm the president and CEO of NACUSO, otherwise known as the National Association of Credit Union Service Organizations. Our association focuses on advancing the credit union industry in the areas of innovation and collaboration. So our membership is comprised of credit unions, CUSOs, which happen to be credit union service organizations, fintechs, and also credit union service partners. And what I love in particular is in our space, we take things out of concept and into implementation. And so much of the work that we do currently is focused around technology and the deployment of it. And of course, AI is a tool that many are utilizing now, even as they iterate around the products that they put in place.
Sure. So the subject of AI and tools is so vast, and we could have approached it from so many different angles. The AI market size, actually, I read this report at Bloomberg, I think. It's projected to grow from USD $5 billion at the end of 2023 to USD 2 trillion by 2030. So it's safe to say that we're in an era where AI is transforming industries and also our societal landscape. So as Co-op, and of course we have all read about the risks and the horror stories, and if you've come here to hear about the existential threat of that AI is posing to our livelihood, I'm sorry, I will disappoint you, because we want to focus on risks that are here now and threats that we're aware of, and how we can mitigate those risks. Because we can be speculative about it, but right now, cooperatives, but businesses everywhere, are using tools, technological tools, including these AI tools, to have a competitive advantage. So we need to really explore how can cooperatives use these tools without compromising their values and principles. And so I guess maybe Ron, you can start us with some, Ronaldo, you can start us with some, maybe by defining a little bit those risks. I mean, what are they? And let's talk a little bit specifically with the prism of equity. What are some of these threats?
Correct. So two come to mind for me. First of all, I'll say this, that the output of anything is only as good as the input. And so the reality as it relates to AI is it can only give you what it's been given. And if what has been given to it is not complete, then what it gives to you could also be incomplete. So when I think of some of the risk in the utilization of it, there is a risk around bias. That's a reality. You know, I've utilized it several times. I've been able to see the direct impact of bias. For example, as a Black man, I put into ChatGPT, give me an output in urban context. And the things that it actually generated were extremely offensive to me. To think that urban context or something that would be reflective of my community, right? Its thought process around that, if you put something out like that, would definitely be a turnoff for anyone who looks like me. So that's one of the things that I noticed about the platform. But also in my previous role, I've been in this one 2 months, right? So in my previous role, our firm had decided that we wanted to test AI to see if it could generate quality headshots for our staff. Our firm had a majority staff that happened to be white. I was one of 3 Black people working there, and then we also had a Filipino that was working with us. And so as we were going through this process and we were working through the headshots, it delivered for all of our white staff who used the platform excellent headshots. Of course, everyone's jumping up and down. Wow, look at what this technology has the ability to produce. It did it so quickly. I'm so excited about my picture. It looks great. For some people, they looked a little better. It took their age backwards, right? So they were like, yes, let's use this tool. And then one of our employees, who happens to have, a Filipino background, he tried to use the tool. And what it generated for him was so far off from who he actually was. It was actually quite offensive to see the output. And we had to make a decision to halt the utilization of it, because what we realized is it was not programmed to adequately take into consideration all types of people, right? So that was a real life example of it. I actually wrote about it, and we put that piece out to our industry to say, listen, because we have this temptation sometimes when we are utilizing technology to believe just because the technology said it, it is right.
Yep.
And the reality is it's not all the way right yet, because outputs can only be as good as inputs. The other challenge that I also see, and we've been talking about this, right, is what it does to our proprietary information. So a lot of people, there are always two audiences, I believe. Well, maybe three, because sometimes you have someone in the center. So you have the audience that is like, oh my God, this new thing is out. I want to use it immediately. And they have no consideration for the challenges that may exist or the ways in which they may want to protect themselves. Then there's the other audience that says, I'm not using that. I don't know who created that. The government's probably trying to get my information. I'm not putting anything in, right? And then you have an audience that's in the center. The reality, though, is so many people, before they realized that their proprietary information could be utilized by someone else, they rushed and they put that information in. And that is a risk, because if I have something that happens to be a trade secret for my organization, if I've developed a process that has sustained my business entity and I don't want that delivered to anyone around the world, right? I'm impacted if I don't consider that this may be risky. So I kind of see those two areas as high-level areas of concern. You know, I think there are those who are looking at the bias aspect. Some people haven't had that light bulb to go off yet to say, hey, there's a whole group of people that may be missing from this input. Yep. Right? But then you have the piece of protecting your information, and both have to be, we have to be attentive to both of them.
Yeah. And on the first issue of the bias, the inherent bias, and it's interesting because we were talking how no technology is morally right or wrong or unethical, and it's how we use it, right? So technology is predominantly morally neutral, and yet with these AI tools, the bias is inherent. It's the way it has been developed, because it is trawling the internet for data that already exists. And so who has had access to that data and who has controlled that narrative is coming out on the output. Absolutely. And on top of that, I mean, you talked about racial discrimination, but you know, women are totally underserved.
Yes.
In this scenario. And I mean, it's no coincidence that Alexa is female, right? And our digital secretaries are all female. So, and I believe, Rob, you had a point as well on this essentially the way the AI is learned and how it steals our data, right?
Yeah. There are a couple of things in that point that we should be aware of. So the what it has been trained on, for example, you're just talking about women and underrepresented groups. If you go to some of the image generators and you say, show me a picture of a business leader, and I've done this many times, the business leader would be a white man, period, hands down.
Of a certain age as well?
No, that will vary.
Okay.
That will vary. Sometimes it will be a silver fox, sometimes it will not.
Okay. It's progress. Progress there.
If you want to see a businesswoman, you have to be specific about that. And if you want to see a black man or a black woman, you have to specifically say that. You will also get the darkest skin as possible, right? If you want someone with my shade or Ronaldo's shade, you actually have to request Hispanic or Latino or something like that. Like the tags that have been put into it are not representative of the range of human beings. But even when it comes to the content that's in there, it's not even the things that you have voluntarily put in. These language models have been trained on the work and the creation of authors and artists without many of their consent, right? And so it's just been sucked into the model, and it allows you to go in and say, show me an image that looks like the work of, insert the name of a living artist, and it will provide that. Or write this in a context of, insert author's name, and it will write that. Well, those people are still alive, right? They're still alive, they're working, they're trying to earn a living from their creations, and these models will just, in many cases, perfectly mimic their work without their permission. And beyond being the bounds outside the humanistic values of cooperators and the cooperative movement, it's just morally wrong. Like, you don't have to be a cooperator to say that that's wrong, right? So, if you want to do Picasso, I think that's fair game. It's been a while, but someone who's currently working right now, that seems out of bounds.
Yeah, and again, you could argue it's still plagiarism. It's still stealing someone's work and appropriating something, and it could totally backfire. But I guess there are ways that potentially you can help with that, or you can use the AI tools in a way that doesn't necessarily take you into kind of morally murky grounds, right? But I just want to step back a little bit and go to the fact that we need to acknowledge the fact that co-ops and actually most businesses do not have access in owning or developing AI tools. Okay, we need to accept that it's only two large multinationals that are controlling that game, that market. So how, that presents a problem. How can we actually control how we use it? First of all, should we even consider the question, are we using AI tools or not? And I say we as co-op leaders, as people from within this movement. Can I hear your views on that? I mean, what is that question even a question?
I don't think that it is. I think that the reality is, one, we're already using it to some extent, right? Two, I don't think that we could avoid completely the utilization of it. So if you consider the fact that so many things have evolved over time, and people have asked this question more than once in history. So the internet comes out, oh my God, this www. This is crazy, an interweb. I don't know if we should use this, right? Now we use it every single day, all throughout the day, to do almost everything that we do, right? And so social media comes out, oh my God, I don't know about that. I feel overly exposed. I don't think we're gonna get into that. We saw how that worked out. Most people had to use it. So this is one of those things that we will have to utilize. I don't think that we can avoid it. I said earlier in our conversation, it's kind of like, how long have we been listening to music via MP3s? And, if you're still trying to hold on to your cassettes, I mean, that's way... I
have some cassettes. No cassette player, but I still hold on to my cassettes.
They are a great keepsake, I must admit, right?
A bunch of hands that flew up over there.
And I do appreciate how vinyl is coming back around, and we have our record players, and so, I think some things, they come back around, but the reality is, for the majority of people, there has to be this adaptation to what is, and AI is what is and will be. So we really don't have the opportunity to not utilize it. It's been around in various ways for a long time, and we've been using it, but now it feels just a little more invasive. So a lot of organizations started using live chat how long ago, right? Live chat that's been directed by AI first. Now, I get upset and aggravated with all of it. I don't like dealing with artificial intelligence on live chat. I hate when I call in and they're trying to prompt me and tell me, and before we get you to a live person, can we also ask you these 3 questions? No, I press 0 and I'm ready to speak to someone right now, right? but it's there, right? The fact that many of the largest companies have been utilizing behavioral economics in order to be successful for a number of years. And all that is the deployment of artificial intelligence to customize an experience for you and I, so that everything that we encounter reflects our behaviors. I think that we have the same opportunity to do that. Some of us are already doing it. We've already partnered with, business solutions and technology companies that help us to do maybe live chat and things of that nature. Some of you have already partnered with entities that allow for a certain amount of behavioral economics to be inserted into how you execute, right? So that's the reality. There are ways that we can back that up, and say, okay, what's the minimum usage that I can have, right? You ready for me to go there? Or
No,
pause?
let's hear also
Okay.
Rob, because that's the next step.
All right,
That's
all
the
right.
next step.
I mean, well, there's some theoretical options we could do when we think about how do we use AI in engaging with our communities, right? So there's a design firm in Seattle, I can't remember the name of it right now, and they created this model that I think is interesting of labels, right? And so there's a label for the content that says human created, there's a label for the content that says AI created, and then there's a label for one that is a mixture of the two, and they have a number scale, you can figure it out. That one seemed like a lot of work doing the mix. I would just say like a mix or something like that. That's something that we don't see very often, but people are expressing some level of discomfort with everything being AI generated. So it might be an advantage for cooperatives to say, this article is 100% human created. Or, everyone uses Grammarly or something like that. So you have an AI helping you, unless you're writing it by hand, there is an AI helping you somewhere. The little squiggly line under the typo is an AI, right? So, but I wouldn't bother to label that as a hybrid. But if it gave you like a really great paragraph or two, and it's really fantastic, and you use it, then okay, then that's a hybrid creation. Like that's one way that we can do to label things. And I thought about that because over the last couple of years when I've been working with different Canadian firms, and even yesterday in our training at St. Mary's, with St. Mary's, they start every meeting with acknowledging the unceded lands that they operate in, that they live or work on. And so they got me to wondering, is it something that cooperators can do if they're using AI tools to basically acknowledge that we're using an AI tool that may include the, not unceded, but the unauthorized, whatever word, works of authors and artists, because you can't do anything about it. We don't have the tools, it's just baked in there. Now, I mean, we live in a litigious society, so I don't know if even acknowledging the use of a tool that everyone else uses, but because you acknowledge the, the fact, like, could someone sue you? Of course someone could, because we're in the US, so they, whether they should or not, probably not, but you never know. But it's just an idea of, is there something that cooperators can do to acknowledge the humanity that went into the work of producing the outcome? Just a thought for us to chew on.
Sure. So I guess, well, we're hearing loud and clear your points that it's unavoidable. We have to ride the wave. And I guess that's also relating to a question that we had, which I had to note down because I've switched off my phone. So we got a question for this session, and I want to ask first of all if the person who asked the question is in the room. They could ask it in person, perhaps.
But they don't know the question.
No, no, there is a person that put it on the app. Yeah. Anyway, the question is, how have you seen AI impacting the industries you work within that aren't cooperatively managed? So the wave is here. The AI tools are here to stay. They're amplifying, they're creating efficiencies, they're making our working lives better. Many question marks on who's designed it, who owns it, the inherent bias that exists in that design. But what do we think that for non-co-ops, what are the benefits? And I guess the question is essentially a leading question, because we want to then understand a little bit, make some space to think about how co-ops are using it and what it means for them if they want to leverage those same benefits.
Absolutely. So some ways that I think are pretty simple to deploy the use of AI is certainly in copy. So it has the ability to write for you. And a lot of people are using it to accelerate how much content they can create in a short period of time. So it does do some things well. You can say, hey, look, we want to produce a piece of content on this. Give us, compelling captions for social media. And it can give you, I feel it does pretty good work around that. You can continue to push it around voice. Again, just don't tell it to go urban. I haven't seen it successfully do that yet. But it is, it's able to be used for that. For me, I think that's probably one of the higher areas of comfort right now, it's speeding up anything that revolves around the need for copy. And I think it helps people too. Some people really struggle. Some people are just some of the most brilliant people that and then they go to write something and it's like, you know what, that was a little challenging. Maybe we should find some some assistance there. So, I think that, those are ways that it can be deployed. Again, and if I bring it to our industry in particular, it is used for evaluation in the credit union space in lending. Now, that's being tweaked right now to try to make sure that bias component does not exist, but organizations are using it to accelerate some evaluation. In our case, loan underwriting is one of the things that has to be evaluated. So depending on your organization and its needs, there's a chance that you can use it to at least make some of the quicker decisions. This is an easy yes. It can do that output. And I'm sure we'll get to this in a moment of not removing. Or you want me to go there?
Please. Please.
The thing I will say is, as you utilize it, I don't think that we're at a place yet that we remove human evaluation. So as I was saying earlier, sometimes there's this thought process that a computer generated this. It's obviously smarter than I am. It is absolutely correct. And based upon what we've seen with those tools, there can be challenges there because remember again, the output is only as good as the input. So I still suggest that if it's being deployed, that there's some level of human evaluation. We're not ready to get rid of all humans just because we have this technology. What we might be ready for is to reassign what work is being done. So now somebody has to evaluate to make sure that they're looking for equity, that what is producing is right for their audience. And to your point, and I know you will go into this deeper because we were talking earlier, you can actually reposition people around revenue generating activity because of what you're able to do in terms of saving on time in additional areas. So those are the things that I'm seeing people use it for. Again, I caution, we still need human evaluation. Humans still know better than computers, about what humans need.
But we could imagine also a situation where a cooperative business, small business, has a decision to make, which is, well, do I increase my profit and essentially, the benefits to my members? Because I can make this co-op a more efficient business and I can lay off a couple of people, content creators, because the AI tools can do it. Okay, but what you're saying, we're not there yet, right?
Not all the way. What I think we probably, a reduction of workforce is inevitable. So I think that's the scary thing of, will I be in that reduction? That part, I believe, is going to happen. And when I step back and just put my business hat on, because we are trying to manage bottom lines and things are a little bit tougher in producing what you need on your bottom line. So the reality is there will likely be, in many entities, a reduction of workforce. We have a small team already, so I really can't go much smaller. However, we're using it to increase the output that we can have, right? But what I'm saying is, I do believe that we cannot completely eliminate humans, because now what we run the risk of is putting things out there that don't have that heart connection or may not have the level of analysis necessary to ensure that what we're releasing is the right fit for who we're trying to reach. And if there's bias in the tool and we rely on it solely without a human looking at it, I feel it's risky.
Absolutely. It completely intensifies this bias.
It does.
And Rob, you had a point on that as well, on how essentially, well, yeah, this kind of the moral concerns that a cooperative leader in particular will have,
right,
because they're using these AI tools and because it's so efficient and it's creating opportunities for the business.
Yeah, there's always, and asking about impact together, what we are seeing is the change in the workforce. Content creators are under a lot of pressure. And it's pretty amazing the speed with which this happened. Content creators were like living large just a year ago, right? And like it literally November last year, this comes out, and a lot of businesses start switching their entire websites to generated by AI, and the floor fell out from underneath them. So there is like an inherent consideration to reduce staff as a way to increase margin. But there are two ways to increase margin. The other is increase revenue. So if you are going to reduce staff because you're having the AI generate the content, so you have a content creator now, and then you have a manager of your operation who reviews the content, so they're part-time editor, and then all the other stuff they're doing. Well, that content creator can now become the editor. So you have the AI write it, the content creator becomes the editor, and the manager doesn't have to do the editing work at all. So now you've freed up this higher level, higher dollar person to go do higher level, higher dollar stuff, right? And then this content creator gets moved up from a content creator to an editor. So now their LinkedIn looks better. What they can go into the marketplace with looks better. You get to keep the staff member on, and everybody's happy. The lower level work is done by the tool, as it should be. And then the people get moved up to higher level, human level work. So I think if you have opportunities within your operation that are clearly to revenue generating, because there's no purpose without profit, you can shift that headcount to those things and let the AI do the work of the things that are important, but maybe not necessarily done by a human, at least not all of it.
Well, that's hopeful to hear, but I guess I want to go into some more practical suggestions that we can give co-op members, co-op leaders. So let's again look at this from the prism of cooperative identity. How can we use AI tools without compromising our principles and values? And let's get some specific ways. I have actually a point to make on that before I give it to you guys. Well, we know that those large language models, generative AI, is using data that's already out there. And so one very fundamental way for co-ops would be to control that data, to be their own content creators, to essentially be aware of the narrative and also promote the fact that they're co-ops, promote their own co-op identity. So it's not good to just say, yeah, I'm a successful business. Yeah, I make a profit for my members. I serve a community. No, talk a little bit about it. Like Aliyah was saying earlier, let's amplify those stories. Let's be proud and not so humble about our achievements. So, the data is a big fundamental. Let me hear some more examples that maybe you have on how co-op leaders can approach this within their organizations, either on an operational, on a governance level, whichever way you want to look at it.
Well, first, I do think that I love what you said to start, right? Because I've been talking about inputs and outputs. We do need to control a part of the input, right? So making sure, and I'll say, as you control the input, try your best to think through the lens of what would your ideal consumer, how would they ask the question? Because sometimes I think we think from the lens of the knowledge base we already have developed. And if this tool is going to work for you in a way that points people to you, you actually have to think about it from the way that the question may be asked, so that you tell the tool how to answer it. I think that is very, very useful. I also believe it is a research tool. The reality is, because it's being fed a lot of information, I know when I use it, sometimes I'll go out to find out information about a particular topic, and it's very interesting. I will find it fascinating to see how people begin to adapt to it and move away from some ordinary search engines in terms of getting the information that they need. So it's a great research tool. Again, you need to have some human evaluation so you know what you're getting, but test it to see how it works. You know, I talked earlier about the fact that it has the opportunity to maybe hone in and clean up your voice a bit around specific content that you want to release. Things like that, you can offload that very quickly and you don't have to worry about doing those things. So those are ways that you can use it right now. And it does both the copy and it'll generate the images, right? So when you think about, if you bring it to, in my opinion, to where people can feel comfortable now, those are ways that you can deploy it immediately. But I do believe that we do, as you said, we need to control what's going into it. So if we're just sitting back saying, well, I'm going to wait until they get all the kinks worked out before I use this tool, we could be behind by the time that happens. So we need to make sure that we're doing our part to be a part of what it is generating even now. I think that that's important.
Right. And even though, as I said earlier, we can't really control the ownership or the development of these tools because we don't have access to Google, I guess, and OpenAI, there are ways that we collectively as a co-op movement, we could collaborate with organizations that specialize in ethical AI. We can participate in discussions on policy and regulatory specifications for the use of AI. And I mean, we know even the creators of AI have called for this, right? So there is space for us to have a voice and talk about the concerns that are concerns not just for core businesses, but for our society in general. Yes, it's 2:10. I'll give the opportunity for some questions now to our panelists. Wow. Would you like to stand up and say?
Louisiana, yes.
I do have a big
I'm from
voice.
Louisiana.
Hey. Yeah. So Tamai Yisrael from New Orleans. It sounds like with the growth, the revenue growth of the industry, it may be opportunity for cooperatives to be or create new cooperatives to either monitor and or do the editing. Do you all see any potential entry points into the AI industry for us to actually shape that narrative as potential tech cooperatives?
Well, I mean, I think that so yes is the answer to that. The shape of it right now is developing. So they are developing tools that are allowing people to create their own language models, right? So the language models don't need to be as large as the ones OpenAI has created, especially if what you're doing doesn't require that. Like, for example, Everything Co-op, and a part of the team for the radio show, we've been talking about putting in the transcripts of the show and creating our own language models so that you could, if you wanted to remember, like, what did Vernon talk with this guest about 5 years ago, you'll be able to find that. Just go and ask the chatbot what they talked about, and you don't have to go through the transcript, it'll just tell you. So there are tools that are being developed that would allow that. So theoretically, a co-op or a group of cooperators could get together to say, let's create this, we're gonna collect this language and this information in an ethical way, and then collectively build a language model. That's not today, but that will be soon.
I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows about a project called Cozy AI, which is trying to bring together people in the cooperative world to create AI in a way that's compatible with cooperative principles. And a larger effort is underway as well, not just with AI, but with all digital infrastructure to invest in cooperatively designed digital infrastructure. So see me if you want to hear more about it. There's some information about it on the datacommons.coop website. But yeah, I think it's really important because we are going to rely on this infrastructure, and we already do, that it be created with our benefit in mind and governed in a way where it's not going to be exploitative.
Absolutely. And we know that I guess for all technology co-ops and digital, cooperatives that are working in the digital space, access to capital is a huge issue. And I think that is a barrier for them to develop tools that are competing with large organizations. But you're right, in terms of the providing services in the technological sector and in the digital sector, then we have power, and we are experts in putting our member first. And so we owe to totally look into that project, and of course any other ones. Any other questions?
I actually had a question that maybe can be answered, but first I want a clarification. When you said putting in your proprietary information, did you mean if I'm writing something that has proprietary information in and I want it rewritten, that I've just sort of given it away? Or?
You have.
Okay.
And I'm glad you asked that question, because I was sitting here thinking, I was like, something that we really needed to say and we didn't, is that your organization should be building policy around this right now.
There you go.
Because
Yeah.
if there's no policy, your employees may already have you exposed because they don't know. They don't know that this information that they're putting in, maybe even trying to impress you, maybe exposing your organization's trade secrets, all of that, to anyone who is utilizing that tool. So once it goes in, unless you have the paid, I know on Chat OpenAI now they have a paid version that does protect your information. But if it's the unpaid version, it's out there for the world.
I got it. Yeah. So my actual question was about the data commons. I mean, you had said whether they're going to put anything in to protect data and what AI can do in scraping data. But I mean, isn't that sort of before there was AI, or in a large sense, it was protecting copyrighted information. You could give it out how you wanted, right? That's what the point was. Is there a plan to both try to get there to be regulation to be able to protect data and then to sort of copyright it from AI or whatever? And the data commons seems to be a cooperative way to
That's
sort
right.
of do that.
Yeah.
That's right.
There's a lot of conversation around that. I know here in the United States, you can look at the AI Bill of Rights, and there are a ton of people who are contributing to what it's going to look like from a regulatory perspective. It's not all the way worked out, so it is a work in progress because this has been so disruptive. It's been here for years and building, but it just seems like it's on a swell right now. So I'm of the opinion, it may be a little negative, that, I don't know that data is going to ever be fully protected. I mean, data breaches, and they happen every day, but we can do our best to protect ourselves.
Yeah, and as co-ops, human-centered enterprise, we can essentially create more data co-ops. And Noemi, we have it is Noemi, right? I can't see you very well, yes. But there is a roundtable discussion where we are discussing data standards, and we are talking about data tomorrow at 12:30, right? So if anybody wants to join that discussion, please, you're very welcome. I don't know where it's going to be. You can tell us. Here. Brilliant. Easy, easy. We may not address the whole thing, because, again, it's a vast subject. Please.
Real quickly, we've talked a lot about content creation, and I understand all of the dynamics related to that as you've described it. However, I wanted to ask if there is any discussion or thought given to creating tools that would help cooperatives in the development process. I mean, I'm going beyond writing and such. I'm thinking more so of creating tools that a cooperative can use if they're facing particular problems or to solve particular issues that they're facing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are a number of low-code or no-code tools that anyone can use to be able to build more sophisticated answers or solutions, tools to build more tools, right? And so those exist. They now, almost all of them have been adding AI components to them as well, which is great, a great development. And they would allow any cooperative of any size, from a one-person operation and up, to build their own internal tools, internally facing as well as externally facing tools. So those definitely exist, and they are becoming AI powered if you want that functionality.
And I'll add this briefly. I've seen some people using it for specific outcomes. So they may say, write me a plan in this particular industry to increase membership by in 30 days. And it can generate for them steps to move them forward. So you can use it. Some people are doing their entire strategic plan via AI, you know, so it is valuable in that way. And we didn't say that earlier, but it's all about what you ask it to do. So think very specific if you're trying to drive a specific outcome. And in some cases, it can get you there quicker.
Yeah, and I will add that there are also tools. I mean, for education, it's a brilliant tool with quite a lot of potential for people with disabilities, dyslexia, or hard of hearing, or visual. Oh,
There we go.
oh no! Is that going to be for 30 minutes? Ooh.
And that concludes our panel.
There's an AI tool that can translate that for you.
So, if you, I think you might be able to turn your phone off.
Yeah, if you just turn it off,
Yeah.
it's.
Okay. So I'd say go ahead and next.
Yeah, so we can.
Great conversation.
Yes,
Yes.
well,
Despite the AI's
there
attempt
you
to
go.
stop us.
the AI won't shut up.
Yes, it has to go off, yeah.
Oh no!
It's on your watch as well.
AI is following me. I'm so sorry. I don't even know how to turn this off.
That's the perfect panel to be in right now.
There it is.
Having a better moment.
Yes.
There we go.
There we go.
Sorry, if it starts again, I'm really sorry. The AI is following me. So yeah, as I was saying, there is. So if we're thinking of co-ops as businesses that empower people, and they are thinking their employees, and they are thinking about their members, access to governance. So creating tools that will enable everybody. I mean, we all lived through a pandemic, right? And we all use digital tools to be together in a room to make decisions, to have discussions. So there's a lot of potential. And again, as Ronaldo and Rob have been saying, it's totally about thinking about policy, thinking about the way that doesn't compromise our principles and values. And we've said that over and over. But I wonder if anybody else has another question, since we've got given a little bit more time.
So I do cooperative development primarily with smaller businesses, and one of the things that I'm stressed out about is that I feel like larger firms or in more like developed cooperative industries and then also just capitalist industries are going to be able to utilize this technology faster, and so like they're already ahead, and then that feels like it's going to accelerate. Yeah. So I wonder just if you have any thoughts on ways that folks that are doing like community economic development can help smaller firms or like community grassroots organizations at least get their foot on the treadmill of utilizing AI.
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah,
Rob?
so I think that the tool is, so the first thing I encourage you to do is not worry about the larger firms getting ahead of you, right? The best way to ensure that you lose the race is to take your eye off the finish line and be looking at your competitors. So they have a lot more resources, absolutely. That's for sure, and they have a lot more developers, but they also have a lot more bloat. So there's a lot more stuff that has to go through a lot more layers of reactions. And your customers, your small businesses serve a small community, and they do it in a way that a Google never can, with one-on-one connections and that human thing that those can't deliver. So that's their superpower. And our superpower is our willingness to work together because we're not competitive. So we can leverage support of each other to be, to be more effective in the marketplace. But one thing you can do really is to, oddly enough, ask the tool. So There are many times when I just want to do a brainstorming and I'll say, here's the thing, here's the project, here's what I'm thinking about, here's what I'm looking like. Give me 10 examples of expected ways to market this or expected ways to do this. And then I'll come back to say, give me 10 examples that are unexpected or innovative ways to do this, just to see what it'll come up with, right? Because it's going through millions of inputs and then ranking. When I say giving the 10 best, it's ranking the most likely responses based upon what I told it it's looking for. When I ask for unexpected or innovative, it's going to go out of the highest ranking and give me the next layer of stuff. And that's where you get some interesting things that could be either completely flat or crazy or gems, right? And you probably won't use them as they are, but you might. And so I encourage everyone to just play with it. Describe your cooperative, its mission, its membership. Don't go into details, but proprietary details, and then explain the problem that you're trying to solve. Talk to it like you're talking to an intern. Don't try to talk to a computer in a computer language and clip the. If you want to use a full sentence, if you want to say comma please, if you want to say thanks, do all of that. It doesn't care, right? So just put all of that in. It'll parse your language and give you an output and see what you get.
Oh, there's another one there.
Mic check, 1, 2. Oh, hello. Thank you for such an interesting conversation. I've been looking forward to this one, actually. My name is Joel, up in Lenape land, New York. And I'm one of those that comes from the mystical traditions, if you will. So I bring that to this work, which is often just, I would say, stuck in what is the physical 3D world. But AI is very interesting. So part of it is, I'm going to go stream of consciousness a little bit, but I wrote notes. I am AI, always intentional. And I think what that little sentence does for me is that it helps me understand that AI is a mirror, and that knowing who I personally am, I've always been into, as a musician, always been into folks that are pioneers, that are using technology, right, to create new sounds and all of that. So I feel I'm part of that tradition as well, but I've never had to think of a tool that would potentially maybe become conscious, right? That I don't think my piano one day is gonna wake up and start composing on its own, right? But this is something that we grapple with AI. That's very interesting to me, because I think what we're talking about is reality and consciousness, and those things play a huge role in our world, in our work, tying in the cosmology of things. It is a very interesting time, because we're seeing these tools come up that are making us think about not only the way we work, because that's one of the key implications that I take away too. It's like, why have we been doing useless shit? That a computer could do it. That's great. I feel relieved. But then this dark existential question of like, wow, somebody's going to lose their job. But who cares? They need to think about work differently, blah, 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 right? I go into that world. But I think there's a few things that I wrote, right? We are mirrors of our creations. So AI will continue to be a mirror of us because it didn't create itself. So the more we work on ourselves, the lighter and more positive and useful this tool becomes, right? And I'll close with really feeling like we need to use it in our world. I've definitely been one of those that have been telling all my co-op members, like, I'm gonna use it, but I love this idea of labeling stuff, because I want to know when something's just been AI done, or I've had a hand in it, because I think other folks benefit from that. Like, sure. Oh, snap, okay. I could see where the AI did some of it, but I could see where the human touch was. So thank you for listening.
Can I say this as encouragement? I think we also have to embrace the fact, I love a lot of the things you said, that people adapt. And there have been so many times that we've been at some level of impetus in this middle of the road kind of moment that we thought this is going to be the thing that shuts it all down. And then we adapt. You know, we find a way to keep going a different way. The music industry thought, oh my God, these MP3s, they blew everything up until they adapted around streaming services and so on and so forth. So people adapt. We find ways, and we will, again, I believe that we'll find a way to develop an industry that still allows people to be a part of the process. We have every time.
It's true, we're evolving, and I guess we can see these AI tools as the evolution of the human race rather than a threat to you know, creating another consciousness. And I wasn't going to go there, but since you went there, I want to, I read something that actually slapped me in the face, because the reality is that the main existential threat we have now is climate change. And using AI is actually exacerbating that because of the level of power and energy we're using. Okay, so I think we've got more big, substantial problems ahead of us than considering machines with consciousness that will come here and you know, live our lives, and then who are we? I just feel that, you know, timing-wise, we're gonna have to deal with floods first, you know, so as we are already. Sorry, I didn't want to end it on a negative. I'm so sorry. Well, I hope this discussion has been invigorating. I know it wasn't exhaustive, but I hope we've given you some ideas and we've stimulated you enough to go back and consider how you use AI and where this world is going, right? And thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Ronaldo. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Ending on that light note, we're going to thank you so much for that incredible conversation that is truly just a beginning, and I know we're having similar conversations all over, but we're going to head out for a short break where we can continue these existential conversations or talking about whatever. And then we're going to meet back here at 2:45 for the Colluminate Co-op Cafe. So enjoy the break, enjoy the discussion. Thank you.